Hey guys, Dave again. So I see that the buy guns and ammo video is sort of blowing up, and a lot of people are accusing me of fear mongering. It's not fear mongering in the slightest. It's me trying to keep you guys informed of sort of what's going on and sort of some of the larger plays that are happening in the world. So yes, the Democrats, elected officials, to some degree Republicans, are trying to take away your rights to buy guns and ammo, and absolutely they're using every way to do it. Now there's sort of a reason why they're trying to do it. They're being forced to do it. I'm by no means defending them, please don't see it that way. Really it comes down to an economic principle, and I make this video on a channel about Wyoming because guns are highly important to people in Wyoming. They're highly important to me. I like guns a lot. The economy's highly important to me. You know, I like money just as much as everybody else. I try to give you guys financial insights, world insights, things that I see in studying all this, coupled with all the adventures. So what's going on? I'm going to try to keep this super brief, super fast, and high level. So basically, back after World War II, the world's just in disarray, except for the US. Just geographically, we were kind of protected. So we had major manufacturing sector, we had a ton of gold in reserves, and the rest of the world's in shambles. So the world came to us to borrow money. So we're handing out money and loaning out money like crazy. In 1944 that is, we go to this Bretton Woods conference, we're talking to everybody, and we say, hey, let's make the US dollar the global reserve currency. We'll back it by gold, so if you want to either get more dollars you can, or if you want to get gold in lieu of the dollars that you turn in, we'll do either way and we'll back that up. But the US gets this huge political influence. Dollars are traded everywhere. Great, awesome. So the US is now the cool guy at the party. The problem with this is now you have to have enough gold to be redeemable for not only domestic currency, but international currency. Well, there's no way to get enough gold to service all of that. So by 71, everything has sort of fallen apart. The US doesn't have enough gold to service even the international piece, not to mention the domestic piece. So Nixon takes us off of the gold standard and says dollars are just redeemable for dollars. You can't get gold anymore. So the dollar starts to become less influential. People don't like this. People in the US government don't like this. So what do? They go to Saudi Arabia and OPEC and they're like, hey, look, we're the biggest buyers of oil. Agree to exchange all oil for dollars, and we'll use our giant navy. We'll protect all of your shipping lanes. We'll handle all of your defense. You won't have to worry about it. We'll continue to buy oil and we'll defend you, and you won't have to militarily spend. Win-win for everybody. Saudi Arabia and OPEC are like, okay, sure. So now the dollar becomes the global reserve currency again, primarily backed by oil that the US doesn't even have. So now any country that wants to buy oil has to buy it in dollars. Whether it's France that wants to buy oil, they need dollars to do it. So people are gobbling up dollars. US dollars are just flying out the door. So all well and good, and that's great. Here's the problem with that system. You have to run perpetual trade deficits. That's why you see the US with negative trade with everybody, because you have to get dollars out into the world for other people to use dollars. So we just rack up huge amounts of debt, which is fine. If people are buying your debt, it can kind of finance. And it feels real great and it works for decades. It won't work for forever. So in 2013, China was like, we've had enough of this system. And they stopped buying debt. Instead, they started using the dollars that they were getting coming in to fund projects in Africa, to do the Belt and Road Initiative, projects in Pakistan. I talked about it in one of the other videos, the stimulus check video. If you want to go check that out and where your stimulus money went, you can see and understand why and how. Now, with that, that sort of broke the system. So the Fed had to begin buying bonds. So they're buying bonds off the banks to try to get money out into the system because they're not using treasuries to do it anymore, because China, the largest trade partner, isn't playing along anymore. So our debt is spiraling out of control. Now, the US spends about $81 billion a year defending oil. And we're not the largest importer of oil anymore, it's China. So other people are starting to become less interested in it. And we've done several things throughout the years to try to maintain our influence in this. So the Gulf War wasn't about weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein wanted to start trading oil in euros. So the US went in and wiped him out to send a message to everybody else. Now we've had some other issues along the way that have come up. Think about the Khashoggi murder. I think I might have butchered his name. The American journalist that was killed by Saudi Arabia's prince. He got a slap on the hand. Why? Because the US needs Saudi Arabia to continue this, to continue to have that influence. Here comes the other piece of the component that's a big problem. About every 75 years, you have a long-term debt cycle that ends. So basically, what happens in a long-term debt cycle, there becomes a new monetary system. If we look at basically 44-ish, 71, it depends on where you want to move that line and shift in there, but really it was sort of 44 that the US became, the global standard. Now it's shifted some different ways, but it puts us at about 75 years. So we're due for a global reset and a new monetary system to come in. More than likely, I think it'll be a big basket of currencies, mixed bag currencies. China's really trying to make a push to make the yuan the currency, especially with the Belt and Road Initiative and having 40% of GDP run through it. So watch for the play there. This gets really tricky to predict because there's so many moving components and they move the goalposts, especially the Fed. They're trying everything they can to stay as influential as possible, even though it's undermining us in a lot of ways. How's it undermining us? So in order to run those huge trade deficits that we talked about, you basically have to outsource manufacturing. You can't be a huge exporter and get dollars out into the world. You have to consume more than you produce. So you slowly erode your manufacturing and let that take hold in other places so that you can buy goods from them to send dollars out into the world. It's why you see blue collar jobs going away. It's why you see the Rust Belt being destroyed like it is. There's no politician that you're going to vote for that's going to be able to bring this stuff back. Until the petrodollar, which is what the system's called, is gone, there's just no way for that to happen. Now, looking at the signs, the way that a long-term debt cycle runs, the way that the petrodollar is sort of eroding and causing US deficits to the degree that it is now, I don't necessarily think it happens in 2021, but I think it's in this decade. Like, we're really there. We're at the cusp of where it's kind of all breaking down. So, and when that happens, be ready for the equivalent of the Great Depression. We're in a depression now, but it's going to get worse. Devaluation will occur. Asset prices are going to go through the roof. Like, buying a home is going to be unachievable for your average person. It's going to look a lot like Japan. They're basically already using the same weapons that Japan used to fight deflation back in the 90s. So the quantitative easing, all of that kind of stuff, buying of bonds, that's the same playbook that Japan used, and it didn't work. We're headed down the same pathway. It's just once the petrodollar gets ripped off and we have this huge amount of debt and no manufacturing base or exports, I don't know how it's not painful and it's not going to hurt. So when I tell you to buy guns and ammo, it's to buy to be prepared for whatever the fallout from that mess looks like. And there's not really a way to predict that. I think the dollar continues to erode. That's why I tell you to buy residential real estate, start businesses, those types of things. Do something that produces something that people have to have, so that way you always have a source of income coming in. Even during the Great Depression, store owners were around and they could sell goods to people because people needed those goods. They would get money to come to them. You have to be in that type of position. Don't be in a sector or in an industry that's discretionary. It has to be a consumer staple. So look to those, be ready for those. I mean, the world, once this starts, and it's already kind of started, but once it really gets rolling, be ready. It's going to be really, really painful. Now, a lot of us aren't feeling it yet. We're still shielded a bit. But if you look at the homeless rate that's out there, look at LA, look at New York, just the signs are there if you look around and see what's going on. The politicians are really good, and those guys have way more information than I do, and they're really good at manipulating situations. Media's the same kind of way. Media is the most powerful entity in the world. It's more powerful than government because you can sway the opinion of the population. You know, those guys aren't going to give you, those guys aren't going to be like everything's falling apart. They don't want your average person to know. It's like aliens, whether aliens exist or not. The government's not going to come out and tell you that aliens exist because they don't want to cause a panic. So it's the same premise here. So, you know, if aliens exist and you tell people and they panic, that's bad. If you tell people that the economy is collapsing and that's happening, that's bad. So people will hoard cash. Hoarding cash or paying down debt will just slam the brakes on the economy to no end. You know, people will make runs on banks like they did back in the day. Your average bank doesn't have enough money to give you whatever it is that you have in there. You know, it's 10 to 1 that they loan out to keep dollars. Like, if everybody went to the bank and tried to get money, you'd be in trouble. It would be the exact same scenario we saw back then. Nothing's changed there. So I want you guys to know that this is sort of some of the things that we're facing. These are sort of some of the hurdles and problems that are coming down the pathway. So when I tell you to get ammo and I tell you to get guns, yes, they're in short supply. It's not like 2012, 2013-ish kind of time frame when Obama came in last time and everybody's like, they're coming for our guns. There are bigger economic issues at play than just politics. And if you look at it from just a little prism, you're going to miss everything else that's going around and you're going to leave yourself exposed. Look at the whole sum of the game that's out there. I'll put some links down in the description. Lyn Alden, absolute genius. She has a great article that explains a bunch of this. There's some great books. Neal, another YouTuber, did a great video on how what's going on right now mirrors the depression. So I encourage you to go check these sources. Go look at these sources. Get familiar with this stuff because it's impacting you in your day-to-day life. And you may or may not see it. You may or may not even have known it existed before this video. You know, if you have questions, put them in the comments. I do my best to answer. I know there's a bunch floating around out there that I need to get back to you guys on. I'm trying really hard to keep up. Be aware that the petrodollar is collapsing. It's going to cause widespread issues throughout the economy, and it's going to have a direct impact on your life. So I encourage you guys to check this out some more. Not fear-mongering when I tell you guys to buy guns and ammo. If nothing else, have it to protect your family. I think you can barter guns and ammo when things really go sideways. I think it'll be just as valuable as gold. People will be looking for that. They'll be looking for that sense of security. Again, not to panic people, but there are bigger forces at work out here in the macroeconomic environment that you need to be aware of, that you need to be prepared for. I hope you guys are ready. I think it's this decade. You've got a little, I hope you have a little bit of time. I don't know. I'm already preparing. I know a lot of other people that are already preparing. If you're not, get started. If you are, keep it up. Great job. Way to be ahead of the curve. Be safe out there.